Hello and welcome to Train Synthetic. In this episode I'll be looking at the tools I use for soldering. It's not going to be a long video hopefully, but I'll just show you what I use. A lot of the stuff came from Maplin, so I can't tell you where to get it from any longer, but it's old stuff I have found useful and I'll tell you why I have it all. So stay tuned and I'll go through my bits. My first item and most important item for soldering is my soldering iron. This is a Gauge Master soldering station, and everything you see there came in the box. So this is a temperature controlled station. You have your stand for the soldering iron and a sponge, and then you have this control wheel to set the temperature as you would like it. For the soldering iron, the tip itself you can actually replace by just undoing that bit and taking it out. I believe Gauge Master sells the spare tips, but it's really nice. It fit nicely in the hand, and you have good control with it precisely, and also you can set it to the rough temperature you want. And it doesn't actually say how hot it is, but it gives you an indication. It's from 200 to 450 at the maximum. But this is the Gauge Master soldering station, and it's the GM661. At some point you'll see me using it on a project, so I'll do a more in-depth review of it then. You will have seen on the Gauge Master soldering station there was a sponge for cleaning the tip. I also have this tip cleaner, which is basically a Brillo pad in a holder, and I use this to keep the tips in really good condition. So this just scrape off all the unwanted metal and just keep it in a really nice condition. And I'm sure that this is the reason my tips actually last quite well. You can change the metal bit. It just come out and you're left with all the little bits at the bottom. But this I've found really useful, and I think it was a Maplin's product. These are the helping hands I use. They are what you use to hold components when soldering, or if you're soldering onto a board you can hold the board in it, or you hold the end of the wires. And I have an additional accessory for it, which is this magnifying glass, which means if you're doing delicate work you can see what you're doing, and this just go over one of these ends and screws on. But these have saved me from so many burnt fingers. All you do is you get a piece of wire or whatever and just clip it in like so, then you just solder for the end. This is solder and solder wick. So this is the main solder I use, and it's from Maplin's. When I run out I need to find a new supplier, and it's a nice thin stuff, so it's easy to use. Before I found that one, I used this stuff, which is a bit thick and not really the best for modern railway soldering. So that's used for soldering for wires and equipment. And this is desolder wick. So if you're ever trying to remove solder from something, this is one of your options you have. What you do, you go and have your item you're trying to remove, you just press this down on the solder with a soldering iron, and this soak up the solder, as you can see just there. To be honest, I haven't had the best of luck with this, but it's something I've bought and used and will use again. Before I bought the Gauge Master soldering station, I used to have a little handheld soldering iron, and this was used to hold it. And I found it really useful. It meant you could just stick your soldering iron in there and you know it wouldn't do any damage. It did have a slight problem of when it got hot, really hot, as this was metal, that bit got hot at times, but it did me for a good many years. And if you just have a soldering iron with a wire, this is a must-have for soldering. These tools here are what I use for the wire. So I got wire cutters and wire strippers. So what I do is to strip the wire. It's easier to strip when you have a nice long section. I go and put the wire in the first notch there, pull down the handles and push. This is my main one of these I use, as this one doesn't have a small enough hole for the wire I use. But I got a second one which is kept permanently in the layout, which have more holes, which mean it does a much nicer job of stripping the wire. So once you stripped it, I just twist it and then you can solder that. If you have two pieces of wire, you twist them together. I normally use a pair of pliers to do that, just to put a bit more grip on it. And then when you're ready for it, you cut the wire to whatever length you want, and then you just strip the other side. So just like that. You can see this does half okay job, but that's cleared now. So you just twist it and then stick it in for a helping hand, and that will be ready for soldering. At times you have little small items you want to handle when soldering or in general use, so that what these two are for. They're just long nose pliers, and you can pick things up with it. So if you're changing components or anything like that, just use these to lift them up. And same with surface mount components or micro LEDs, you just use these to hold it. I got two different pairs, as I just gradually go through different ones. These have an auto hold feature, which now mean that will be permanently held till I let go. When this one you do for holding. This here is heat shrink. You use this to cover any joints in wires you make. So you would cut this to the appropriate length, feed it on top of the wire you're working on, and then when you're done you just pull this over the work area and then heat it up. I personally use a soldering iron to do it, but a lot of people just use a lighter to do it. This is my multimeter I use. I'm not really the best at using it, so I won't show you what I do with it. But it can be used for testing circuits, making sure you haven't got grounding happening. This one you can test for resistance of resistors. It can tell you the voltage or the amperage of things, so if you're not sure if your track's getting power, you can use this. It won't work with DCC because DCC does some funny stuff, but this have helped me many a times when I was having weird problems. Whenever I do use it, I just go onto the internet and type guides for using multimeters, and it show me what to do. This is the last tool I have for soldering. You'll think, what on earth is it? This is actually a tool with a sticky end, brilliant for moving micro LEDs about. So you just use this to pick it up, pick it and place it, because it has a sticky end underneath there. This was an item I had real trouble finding, but when I did find it, it's been useful for a few times I've used it. Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully you'll find what I use useful if you're deciding what to buy. Like I said, most stuff came from Maplin, so I can't really tell you where to get it from. But if you look on for online sellers, you'll be able to find whatever you need. And that's about it. So make sure to like, subscribe, comment, and to tell your friends. And I'll see you next time. Thank you very much, Richard.